A very important feature of every audio interface out there is the ability to turn on phantom power and supply voltage to the hardware that needs it. However, it is something you should be careful with, as supplying voltage to the hardware that doesn't need it can turn your expensive guitar into an expensive prop for the broken leg for your couch. So let's talk about what phantom power is and whether you need to be on the lookout for it. A very simple explanation of the hardware we use in audio can be boiled down to there being hardware that is self-sufficient in terms of the signal it's outputting, and hardware that just needs some help with it. A great example of self-sufficient hardware can be something like guitars. They get plugged right into amps and audio interfaces and provide a decent enough signal you can work with. The same goes for something like MIDI keyboards. They usually plug straight into your computer and don't make sound on their own, but control other sounds and parameters. A similar idea goes for microphones as well. Dynamic microphones like the one I'm using right now are most commonly used for intense sounds of something like a drum kit or me. They're also a common choice for a podcast or streaming microphones, and they're less sensitive than their condenser counterparts. Their less sensitive nature translates to a signal that requires you to turn the gain knob all the way up on your audio interface, but they don't require phantom power and do not support it. Sending extra voltage to them will likely be fine, but the likelihood of breaking that microphone just goes up. And that goes for pretty much everything that doesn't require phantom power. Now, to be fair, when you engage the switch, sending that extra 48 volts down the audio interface, you're usually only affecting the XLR inputs. This isn't to say that phantom power cannot run through a 1/4 inch. It absolutely can, which is why you should be careful when plugging in your instruments. But usually the switch is working only for XLR or combo inputs that can host both. It also usually doesn't affect specific instrument inputs, such as this one on my own interface. But your experience here can vary, so be sure to take some time to research your own equipment before you press a button that can potentially break it. So the most TLDR answer I can give to the question of whether you need phantom power is this: you don't unless your hardware absolutely requires it. And the hardware that absolutely requires it is usually limited to condenser microphones, some ribbon microphones, and some preamps like Cloudlifter, Fathead, or any other variation that are commonly used to bring up the signal in low sensitivity microphones. If you are using one of these, you will need to power them with phantom power, but that extra voltage will be contained in the lifter itself, keeping your dynamic microphone safe.